Welcome back, everyone, to another Outdoor Burrito. I've got Carl Jocumsen here again and Kyle Vandiver, a.k.a. Vandy Hammer. He's got a lot of names. He's trying to hide something. But this is going to be a part 2. So if you haven't seen part 1, I recommend you pause this one, put it in your queue, go back, listen to part 1, where we kind of talked about how Carl made it to the elites, how I made it to the elites, kind of the things that we learned, the blueprint that we used, and then the blueprint that we would use now if we were trying to qualify for the highest level in professional fishing. And so that's kind of what we discussed on the first one. This one is going to be a little bit more diving into the business side of it. Sponsorships, how to obtain those, how to keep those, what those look like. And then we're actually going to get some sort of knowledge from Vandy, hopefully, on how to not make a bunch of noises with your Yeti Rambler in the middle of a podcast.
That was my entrance.
Talking about the media side, right? And like kind of how he got into the fishing world, filming with us, and kind of mixed in this, and how important that side of it is now. And he can kind of give some insight on the things he sees from an outsider's perspective in the fishing world. So yeah, let's just dive into it. We kind of left off, talking about all the different levels of fishing, how you got started. Before we got started today, just on the walk over here, we were talking about how everyone thinks that when you make it to the elites, that all this money is just going to come flowing your way. Like you're just going to be swimming in this river of cash flow.
Yeah.
And that's not the case.
No.
You guys aren't?
Well, you can be. And we've gotten over I'm getting over the hump for sure. It's been the best couple of years of my career for sure since 2019.
Yeah.
But even after that, it's still a grinder, but we're definitely I've always been living my dream, and I've in a sense, but that came with a lot of anxious and grind and wondering whether you are going to be fishing the next year or in the next week, where it's really the hardest part is to get established where you're like, I'm a professional angler. This is actually what I do.
Well, and I think it's important to maybe take a step back in this conversation and say that if you're looking at professional bass fishing and you're saying, I want to do that because I want to make a bunch of money, stop.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Do something else.
Yeah. It can't be for the money. You have to be doing this because you love fishing and you love competitive fishing and you love the outdoors and
it's too hard. Like you will get burnt out if you're doing it for the money.
Yeah.
Like all of those, like you talk about all of those years before 2019, you would have quit.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have kept going if you were doing it for the money. You're like, this is dumb.
This is
I'm
crazy.
broke. I'm in debt.
Yeah.
My stuff's getting stolen. I can't afford to buy new stuff. Like I'm just going to
go home.
I'll go do something different.
Yeah.
It'd be way easier. But
it has to be.
There was no
other option. Yeah. No option, no plan B. I knew that, one of the motivators for me, I've said this a few times, was the people that told me, like, there's no way I'm ever going to make it. It's impossible. We can't come from Australia. I heard it from my teachers to people around me, close people, far people that didn't know me. I saw it from every angle, and all I thought of is if I quit and I don't make this, that makes them right. And that was my deep down motivation to just be like, I can't let them be right. And those were the things that got me up. But the big mistake that I made was thinking that if I'm the first, but at the same time, it wasn't a mistake because it helped me to grind to get there and so I don't want to discourage anyone, but I was thinking if I make the elites and I'm the first Australian to ever make it, I've made it. My life's set.
Yeah.
That's what I actually thought.
Yeah.
And so that was the motivation a bit to get there. Like I just got to get there and then everything's going to be unbelievable.
Because you're doing something that nobody else has done.
No one's done it. And it's like the pinnacle. It's the highest level of bass fishing. It's the Bassmaster Elites. It's everything. And I'm like, I just got to get there. And this grind is going to stop. And 6 months into 2015, I was in the worst position of my entire life.
Which was your first year on the Elites.
First year on the Elites.
So everyone knows.
And it was not fun. I was caught in between. I'm there and I'm doing it, but now I want to be competitive. But what we'll talk about is like I thought the sponsorships were going to come, and so the little bit of money that I saved, the money that I'd won, and then I had a few sponsors that were coming in and paying some money. That was like I was surviving on the opens. Like I was just breaking even, not going broke, not having a cent in the bank, and just like surviving. And that's kind of like a win in the opens, really. Like I was surviving. I was able to fish the opens. I was fishing, and I wasn't working another job. I was like every avenue that you can imagine to make any money I was doing. I was doing those opens trips, whatever I could do, like that could make $5,000. I'd be doing it. I was using everything I just got to survive. And so when I made it, all of a sudden, $50,000 entry fees, more tournaments, and then bigger travel, and just the expenses went through the roof. And so it went to about $100,000 a year. Well, my first year, I think I got 2 checks or 3 checks. And then, it doesn't even cover your entry fees. No. And so
at that point,
at the end of that year, like I literally, at the end of 2016, I got relegated and I had $60,000 of credit card debt.
For those of you that don't know what he means, that's not Australian. When he says relegated, that means he got kicked out.
Got kicked out. Yeah. It's the nicer way of saying it. And so it was not the dream and the reality that a lot of us all think it's going to be. And so, and it is for some. I don't want to discourage it because you can make it. I just think I fought a little bit too hard and I made it too quick to where I shouldn't have really been there in a sense.
And do you think like just listening to you talk about this, I'd never thought of it this way, because I shared some of the same thought process coming into it, but until I was listening to you, kind of explain it, do you think there was part of you that because you thought if I just make it to that point, everything will be good, that you didn't focus enough on getting those sponsorships solidified beforehand or because you thought it was just going to come to you, so you weren't out pursuing them? Do you think that was?
Well, it's hard to go and pursue it because it seems so impossible at the same time. That in 2013, I finished below 100th every single open. Never made a check at every single one, and then except for the very last year, going back to the last podcast, if you listen. That one little turning point I had, there was one more open and I was totally broke. I had $0, no credit, nothing left. It's over. And I said to Gene, I was living with Gene then, and I said, I'm going to stay. I'm going to leave. I'm going to take my boat back and leave, and I don't really know what I'm going to do. And Gene's like, fish that. You got to fish the last open. And I said, there's no point. I can't make the elites. It's done. There's no point in doing it. He's like, and I said, I got no money. So Gene was like, I'll pay your entry fee. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I can't. I said, I got a little bit of money, but I'm going to run out of money fuel wise. And he's like, I'll get you once you just tell me. And so he paid my entry fee you did good there.
The Arkansas River.
No, you fished there on the Elites. Dustin Connell won it. I can't believe I can't remember the name.
Seminole?
No.
He didn't win.
In the Mississippi, the guy got killed there in the open, got shot there when I was at that actual open.
Oh, Ross Barnett.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking
I didn't
of.
forget that.
When you said Connell, I was thinking Ross Barnett.
we're driving to Ross Barnett, and Gene, I run out of money, and he literally, I pull up to the gas, and he walks over, swipes his card on the truck and the boat, and I fuel up. And we get there, he paid for the hotel, paid for food, everything. Nothing of my cards work. I have zero. And then me and him just work together fishing wise, and he ends up coming second, and I come third. He won like nearly 30 grand, I think, and I won 10 grand. So very last of the Open, and that was like, we drove back, and I was like, I'm back in the game again. Like, we're going.
Screw the $60,000 in debt. I just won 10.
No, I wasn't in debt then. That was the Open. That was the end of 13. Okay. And so that was that boost of like, I got what it takes, because I top 10. I waved. There's a photo of me and my skeeter, and there was a huge crowd at Bass Pro Shops, and I was holding the bass up like James Overstreet took this shot, and I'm like, that's my dream. Like, it was the crowd going nuts, and like I went back. What have I got to do? So I started selling stuff again. I'm chasing sponsorship. I'm doing whatever I can. Yeah. Came back in 14, and I made it. So
that's crazy.
It wasn't like, and so I come off a year of just like couldn't do anything right, thinking it's literally impossible, till like next minute I made it. And so I couldn't have been like, I need to chase up sponsors, because I didn't know what it was going to, you didn't know that it was going to be that tough. So in my mind, I thought, so it is a good thing to tell people now that, one, if you're going to make it and you're going to try, you need to have that base to know that when you make it, that you're kind of a bit of a risk. What I realized, like, you're a risk to a big sponsor to invest in you, because you might come and go real quick. Mm-hmm. You mightn't even last a year. They're not sure. So like, it even has taken me this long, where I feel like the last couple years for me, the big sponsors have looked at me and gone like, he's here to stay. Now we're willing to really get in behind him. But that's how long I've been here, for nearly 15 years now. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm trying as hard as I can. Like, it's, but that's kind of what it takes. It's either that, or you need to be an ultra freak and win early and win often. There's like kind of two things. And if you teeter between them, you're not dominant and you're not winning, and then you're not at the top of like social media and the front end, and you're not like too charismatic or don't put your story out there, you're really going to sit in that middle part, and you can get mowed over like real quick.
Do you think cutting out the entry fees, the current format that we compete under this year, because it's new, do you think the current payout structure, entry fee, lack of thereof entry fees, do you think that is a more sustainable model for a guy coming in, where now you essentially have to come up with $10,000 instead of $45,000?
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's even hard, like when you're making money and you keep you're doing good, and 10 grand keeps coming out your account every couple of weeks. You're just like, far out, then this is going to end. Like, it just keeps getting out, and you're like, I got to make a lot of money. It's a ton of money. So for someone like Tommy or some of these Opens guys coming in, it's way better. Like, it's definitely, and I just don't think you should make it to the pinnacle of the sport and then go broke. That's sort of crazy to me, and that has happened to a lot of us. It's a lot of guys that were far better fishermen than me and more experienced that I've seen come and really take a big hit on them and go. And I'm like, man, that put them under a lot of pressure, their family, their homes, their everything. And like, they're just names that you never hear of ever again. And they dominated in Opens. They were really good fishermen. Mm-hmm. And so I like the more sustainable. I like the toughness. Like, there's a part of me that's like, I don't want to make it easier for anyone. I had to go through the gore. Like, I had to go through the ringer. Like, when I see these guys, I had a tough year and that, I'm like, well, have another one, and then have another one, then have another one, keep coming back, go broke, make the elites, get kicked out, go back to the Opens, come back and see how much. Let's see how much you like it. Because if you just make it your first year in the Opens and then have a successful year, which we're seeing, it's happening. I like it. I like these. I love seeing the young fellas catch them. But I know what's coming. Hard times are coming. it's not going to be rainbows and sunshine every single day for these young guys. And when it comes, it's going to hit them hard like it has hit me before. And I've had to learn real hard. So I prefer it to be tough on younger guys so they get a little bit of grit and heart and guts about them and backbone to be like, push, let's see what you got. Let's see what happens when everything tightens up. Can you fight through it? Not just like blitz it out of the park. I feel like that hurts them more than anything, even though they've had like, they're showing that they are good, but we haven't seen them. Let's see them go through some tough times. When even Easton, he had 2 terrible ones, and someone asked me, "What do you think of that?" And I said, "Best thing that's ever happened to him." I'm like, "Watch what he does." And I didn't. I thought like he's gonna like
take a little
it'll
time.
take a little while. Won the classic and then just dominate to the next one. And I guarantee you that fire got under him, and he was like, he dug down. He thought maybe the first 2 he was going to just crush it because he's had such a killer year. Next minute had that, he come back with fire lit under him.
Yeah. You kind of see what someone's made of when they're at the bottom.
Yeah, that's when you see the truth.
It's easy when everything's going good and everything's smooth and fine and dandy, but it's like when you get tested, that's when you really see what a guy's capable of, or a girl, or whatever.
Do you guys think you can, because you kind of alluded to it, you don't mature, you make success faster than you mature. And I think if you're in the opens, you find your way into the elites and you're not ready, it's actually more of a burden than it is to actually be tested in the opens, kind of learn the ropes of not only the angling side of it, the competitive side of it, but the actual financial side of it too. Because I think that's a huge thing. Brandon, you've said it before, is like, you guys don't just make money catching fish.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point to bring up, because the current structure of the opens, or like when it switched to the EQs with all 9 instead of just being able to qualify based on 3 tournaments, that came from angler input. I don't think a lot of people realize that, but that was brought up in multiple, meetings and conversations over years, because guys were fishing, 3 opens, 2 of them being water, that you could consider their home waters regionally. And then they qualify for the elites and they're way in over their head. Then they got $45,000 in entry, right? To compete on a single year of the elites, when we had entry fees, you were a minimum $70,000.
Yeah.
Like
that's
that was
on
like
fumes.
Yeah, that's like sleeping in your truck a lot. That's like really doing it. That was about as cheap as you could do it. And
that's just entry fees?
That's
and
entry
gas
fees,
and
gas, lodging, tackle.
Okay,
that's like in and out the door, $70,000 minimum.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys that realized they came in from almost not having any sponsors from the opens to not getting any sponsors on the elites.
Yeah.
And they're like, and then they were relying on like a couple people, which I'd like to touch on this because I think this is a good avenue to tell people about how to get it started on sponsorships. They relied on some people they knew in their town that were proud of them. It was like a car dealership or a Dunkin' Donuts or that their friend owned in their town. And those are the people that got behind them. It wasn't as much of the big industry ones that you thought, like the big lure sponsors and motors and all of this. They weren't the ones to jump in because they know the gauntlet you're about to go through. They're sitting back saying, I like this kid. And even though they do jump on like Easton and young guys now, back then, I think they were just like, let's see how long this guy is. If he's the real deal, then we'll get on. So
when we'll get into that, I think like just one more point on what you're saying, Kyle, is like the reason it went to the EQs with 9 and then now it's, 4 and 4, you qualify and then you fish the 3 after.
Yeah.
That was to mitigate those guys coming in being unprepared.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're already seeing the results of that.
Yeah.
Of where when the guys that do qualify for the elites, they come in ready.
They're ready to go.
Like they're ready to
Yeah.
compete. They're cashing checks. They're
Yeah.
making top tens. Like that's not by coincidence, you know, and a lot of them, you know, that they're starting super early. We talked about that in the last podcast of like, you know, high school, then college. And when they're doing that, they're also building a brand, right? All those sponsors they're watching.
Yeah.
You know, they're watching, okay, you had success in the college level. Well, that's a separate market, right? They're speaking to those college kids. And then, so maybe we're going to do a little bit with him here. And then with those programs, right? When they win that, there's relationships that are built because, you know, companies like Toyota step up and things like that, where, you know, they get a boat and a truck and they get, you know, their opens paid for. So that platform is there, but they're able to build those relationships that if they then continue that success and they do it in the right way, and then they're able to continue those relationships that when they do qualify, then it's that opportunity's there.
Yeah.
And then so that comes back full circle to what you were just getting into is that relationship building.
Yep.
Right. And I think that's a big mistake you see with a lot of like high school and college anglers, and even guys that are just trying to dive into the opens. They try to go to the biggest, you know, endemic companies.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know, just think of the biggest names in the fishing industry: Humminbird, Minn Kota, Skeeter, Yamaha. Like you're going to these major companies, they get thousands of emails.
Yeah.
You know, and so to try to send them an email and stand out amongst the thousands that they get, that's really hard. And so the best thing to do is that when you're starting out, or, you know, whether it's high school or college or a guy trying to get money for the opens, starting local is the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
Local businesses, because you're going to have the most impact on their business. And then you're also able to build those relationships. And it doesn't mean you can't carry those with you when you make it to the elites, you know, because you can still help their business, but you're able to do a lot more things locally at that time that help them out, right?
Yeah.
And provide value for them. And that's where you need to start. And then you're able to learn a lot of things, right? Like hopefully you build those relationships and you learn what works and what doesn't work. And then when you do make it to that top level, you're able to take that. So like there's a funny story that I always like to tell, and it's out there, so I've told it before on other podcasts and stuff. But when I was 15, 16, I did exactly what I just told everybody not to do. And, you know, I sent emails, you know, I was just a kid in Idaho. I'm like, I want free baits or whatever. Like, you know, I'm like, hey, I'm a 16-year-old kid in North Idaho. I'm fishing the Bass Nation as a boater, like doing something nobody else is doing up here. You know, can we talk? And it'd just be crickets.
Yeah.
Like you never get an email back, nothing. Like send another one. You know, hey, I sent you an email last week before. Crickets, nothing. The only one I ever got back was from Chris Brown.
Oh.
And this is when he was the marketing pro staff manager at Strike King at the time. And he was the only one that ever wrote me back. And it was a no. He told me no. But he said, I like what you're doing. I'm going to keep your name on file. He probably didn't. He probably just deleted the email and that was it. But the fact that he wrote me back,
that's cool.
Took the time, you know, to acknowledge that I was a person.
Yep.
I have never forgot that to this day. Fast forward, I mean, that was early 2000s. Fast forward to like 2014, 15-ish. I signed a deal with Rigid Industries back in 2012. Their marine industry starts, you know, growing, or the marine side of their industry. They're looking for someone to hire. Chris Brown becomes my boss.
That's awesome.
And he's my boss at Rigid. Well, then Rigid gets bought out. The marine side starts to kind of dwindle. They go another direction. Chris goes to another company because no longer really has a job there. And then an opening comes up at Skeeter, and now he's my boss at Skeeter.
That's so cool.
And I have never forgot that, right?
Yeah.
So like from the time I was a 16-year-old kid, 20 years later, I have the utmost respect for him because of that. And that kind of built the framework for a lot of like my business side of where, hey, if I see something, like just try to take the time to acknowledge, right? Or
you don't know who that kid's going to be.
Yeah,
what's
you
he
just
going to do?
don't
Where's he going to go?
Exactly.
Next minute, you're like, oh, I didn't acknowledge that kid, or I didn't give him the time, or he sent me a message on Facebook and I didn't respond, and now he's a killer, and you should have jumped on it.
Yeah. So this is a crazy one. Like, you know how hard it is because now there's social media, right? And DMs and all that. And like, you just
tough.
can't
go
through all of them. If you didn't have kids and all the other things, then but you like, I don't physically have the time to sit and go through, but every once in a while I'll cycle through them and I'll go through them. Well, when Hamner won the Classic last year, I didn't have his phone number. And so I just went into his Instagram and I clicked on messages, and I had a message request from Hamner from like 2019 or 20.
Yeah.
And it was him talking about how he was going to fish the opens and try to qualify for the elites, and like what he was doing and if I had any advice for him. I was like,
wow.
It was actually really cool to see, like I saw a glimpse into the progress of like, he was putting in the work, he was doing the things.
Boom, you just fast forwarded it and he's a Classic champ.
Like, bam, 4 or 5 years later, and bam, he's a Classic champ.
Well, the same thing happened with what, you saying that it meant something to you, as you responded to me through Facebook in 2011. I messaged you and I said, what nations boat did you have? I have number 22. That was the one that they gave me. It had the nations number still on it. And you said, no, my number was like 16 or whatever. But, and you sent me, and then you sort of followed my career along from there, which was cool. And like, to me back then, I was like, no way, he messaged me back. Like, and it's a boost,
Yeah.
And
when we had like the shared passion for like video stuff, because I think then we started talking.
And
I was like, we continued talking about like GoPro stuff and editing, and you were asking like, what computer do you edit on?
I had a PC. Stuff? I edited the Lake Fork one. You said, why is it all blurry or something? And I was like, it's like the most I could upload in it, and that's when you bought me a MacBook.
I'm like, you can't be doing this. Cool. We can't be having this out there.
What financial advice would you give someone who's fishing the opens? Like, say there's a 23-year-old kid who's fishing the opens, or anybody in their age trying to go after it. What financial advice, if you could give them, what would you do now? Looking back at your career, is there any advice you'd give?
Oh man. I would say the biggest thing is like do the research to get all of your ducks in a row business wise. So if you are going to try to pursue it, you're going to, bring in sponsorship money, potentially win events and bring in money that way. Getting it set up as a business so that you can actually run it as a business is probably the biggest thing, because you don't want to wait to do that and then win a major event and have it be too late, because you're just going to be throwing money away on taxes and things like that. So you want to set up some sort of LLC or a corporation or something that is at least going to give you the groundwork to maximize your winnings or your profits when you do. And then that's also going to allow you to do, a bunch of different deductions and things that you wouldn't be able to do if you were just doing it, with your social security number.
A huge thing that has helped me that I don't see a ton of people doing, but I've helped a lot of people with this is a sponsor prop. And if you create a professional looking sponsor prop to give yourself like a portfolio to show like this is legit, this is what I do. And I've had one forever and it's gotten better and better each year. And it helped me get non-endemic ones like Scotia and stuff like that. They loved it. But as an opens angler, you know, there's so many tackle companies out there that want their name and want to be a part of the opens, and they want someone to support. And they mightn't have a huge budget, but a few $1,000s like paying your opens, that's a lot. That's getting you some entry fees, or just get your 3 entry fees paid. That's huge. And so create like a really professional looking sponsor prop with photos and what you've done and what you're going to do, what you want to do, your envision, your dreams. Set it up. It's not hard to do. And that's so easy to email to someone, to hand to someone in person. And then in that hometown of yours, you start going to a car dealership, the battery place, this place, and you just start handing it out. And there's so many people that I talk to that they're like, yeah, I sponsor, you know, a kid on the opens or a kid in the nations. And I'm like, really? And it's a guy I spoke to about clothing. He's got like a fashion clothing thing, and he sponsors a couple people because his passion is fishing. And he's like, I saw my logo on the lid when they were filming one of the college things, and I thought that's sick. You know, there's millions of people out there that want to do that. And I think the misconception is like, people are going to come from everywhere when you make it, or even when you're on the opens. But every single one of my sponsorships, bar a couple, have come from personal relationships with a human, a person that just happened to be the manager of that. Like Hobie Kayaks, it was one guy, Steve Fields. He liked what I did. He saw it. And one day he said, he's seen that I wasn't going to quit. And he's like, what do you need to keep going? And I said, money. And he was like, he's like, well, I want to see you to keep going. And he's like, and it turned into a 15-year sponsorship that just went forever, and they just have been unbelievable. It would never have been here without it. And then another thing, this is a good one to talk about. When you're younger and you have that freedom, sponsorships and sponsors are going to start to take up your time of content and all of these things, and jumping around and moving around different sponsors. So what I tell people is like, use the stuff, especially the fishing stuff, of the stuff you love. So like I loved Shimano, I loved Miller rods, but you know, these things, I just used them anyway. And then I just used more of it and pushed it, and then they turned later down the track. It took a long time. But I dreamt of being sponsored by them, and I used that product. And I think that's a really good way, but you're going to have to look down to the future, and sometimes you're going to have to actually not take a sponsorship early that you're going to have to deny, because someone might come to you with product or whatever, and you're going to like, this is really where I want to be. This is my goal. This is the company that I envision. I love these reels, but this company is going to give me 10 free reels. What are you going to do in that moment? You know? And so
I think you have to be authentic.
Because and that helps you to be authentic, because you're like, no, this is why I love these reels or rods or whatever, or these baits. This is what I love. And it gets harder and harder to do that down the track when you have big sponsorships, family, and you're getting higher up. It's been a hard one for me because I'm so loyal. You're the same. And then just things come up where you have to make these decisions, and it's really hurt. And it's hard to do, but early in your career, try not to do that. Try and be as loyal as you can, and use the stuff that you love, because it'll show. It'll show down the track, and then you'll align yourself with the people that that you know you want to be aligned with too.
Yeah, I kind of have like the 3 Ps for that for me. Like when I'm making decisions based on sponsorships, you know, whether it's going to be a yes or no. Going through those conversations is like people, right? So are there good people at that company that, you know, I feel like I share the same morals and values with, that I want to hang out with. I want to be around those people, right? I want to have conversations with them on the phone. That is a huge thing.
Massive.
Because that carries the longevity of that relationship. And it makes it not feel like work. Like none of us started
like
out
friends,
bass fishing wanting it to feel like work.
Yep.
We wanted to do it because we loved it and because we think it's fun.
Yep.
And so, surrounding yourself with the right people is a huge part. That's why I'm looking for another camera guy. No, just
People you like, someone you
kidding.
like.
Oh, totally kidding. And then the other one is product, right? Like you were mentioning, good product that you believe in, that you feel like is something that when you tell people, this is what I use, go buy this, that when they also buy that, they're going to have a good experience. Because that's going to continue to build your credibility, right? You want people to, if they go buy something that you recommend, you want them to not regret that decision.
Yeah.
Because then everything else, if you just do that once, well, they're going to be hesitant on anything else that you try to sell. And then the next one is process, right? Like having a good process of, whether it's product development or just communication and things like that. Like, so, people, product, and the process of that just seems to make everything go smoothly. And then financial comes in there somewhere.
Yeah, it'll come in there
After
eventually
that, but-
too. It'll get better. Or like it'll get better if those three line up.
Yeah.
The financial will just come, and it'll come smoother and easier, and it'll like. I think you and me both in the last couple of years, like just lined with like you're just like you're loving what you're doing. Like your people understand you, they appreciate you, you appreciate them, and when you get that click going, it, like you said, it doesn't feel like work. All of a sudden, you are doing what you love. You are, and the work is just what you love as well. Like it's a win-win, but it's a lot to get there.
Yeah, 100%. And it's constantly changing. I remember when social media started becoming a thing outside of the fishing industry. Like I remember when Instagram first launched, and I was like, I didn't even know what it was. My sister was like, you should get an Instagram account. I'm like, okay, sure. So I get an Instagram account, and I'm like, yeah, post a picture, and like 300 people saw it. I'm like, well, when I go to a boat show, there might only be 150 or 200 people in a room. I'm like, well, I'll just reach more people. So I start having these conversations with sponsors saying like, hey, like I can reach all these people quickly. And it doesn't cost me anything. Like I just post a picture and people see it and it's your product. And they're like, okay, see you at the boat show next week. Or something,
that was still more important back then.
No, everyone's like, okay, cool. Like keep posting your pictures. And then it's come full circle where now every single contract has some sort of, social media deliverable.
Yeah.
Because that's where the eyeballs are. So it's like always pay attention to where the attention is, and that's where you need to be.
Yeah.
And so that was like one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't put more into YouTube when I started.
Yeah.
Because I started one
we both did
2009, I think, before I ever even made the
Yeah.
elites. And so like all the way back in 2010, I was some of you listen to this won't even know what I'm talking about. Some of you will laugh because you had one. But the old flip cameras, it filmed in 720. I had an orange one. It had a screen on the back. It was a tiny little screen. And they called it a flip cam because you like pull this little lever down and a USB port would pop out the side and you just plugged the whole thing into your camera. And I don't even think it took SD cards. It just took like internal memory, whatever it was. But me and my buddy Mark Diaz filmed like our whole journey in 2010, going across the country, like had all this awesome footage. And I wish I would have just, been able to see the future and just be like, hey, just keep filming all this random stuff and putting it out there. Even early on when I was sleeping in the back of the truck on the Elites and
put it in the bank.
Yeah, I started filming videos and I'd like put them to music, and they're just like music videos with fishing content. Like I thought they were super cool.
Yeah.
People thought they were cool because there really wasn't much of that out there. But then I always had this idea like, man, can only do so much with a GoPro.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to document all this stuff. And then that was like when 2017 came in, and then Kyle started in 2018. And then he's just, it was like stray cat. That's the
Can't
joke.
get
He's
rid of
just
me.
like
Yeah.
a stray cat.
You feed me and I show up.
What do you think about I think from an opens guy in college and someone coming up looking to do this, they're looking at you and they're looking at Milliken and all of these guys doing this crazy content, and I've been in that position too. Not to get like overwhelmed in that, as in like that's what I've got to do. Like, what would you say to someone about like finding your lane or what works for you and going after that? Like, not trying to do what you two are doing, because it's like it's just like, is that what I've got to do? I don't ever.
No.
And a lot of guys are getting
You don't have to.
a good. A lot of guys are doing good is like, find this lane that works for you in whether it's content or how you promote yourself, and like go down that lane and do that. You know, and it might be like G-Man picks a phone up and films himself. It's nothing special, and it gets more views and mass because it's like what he's saying. He's trying to reach people with his words. It's not high end stuff. So like, how are you going to do it? Something to work for you, and you can.
The sickening part is that you actually, based on the algorithms and all the research, you actually get more views on non like high quality stuff just filmed with your cell phone.
It's short form content.
Yeah.
It's like in terms of like, I think what we do personally is more of long form.
Yeah.
And relatively on an Instagram platform, you're not going to win there. I think like creating a teaser for a video is more important on Instagram, and it has to not be like your intro. It has to be like a funny little bit or something little quick, like, or simple, very simple, like 10 to 15 second clips are way better than a minute and 30-second clip.
Yeah.
Mostly.
But 2 years from now, it might be something completely
totally
different.
different.
Might be a completely different platform.
Yeah.
It continues to change at a very fast rate.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing, that like if you're starting out and you're wanting to continue to grow, is paying attention to where the eyeballs and the attention is at.
Yeah. Moving a bit faster with that stuff.
Yeah, it's like if you're still dumping $100,000 a year into newspaper ads right now, it's probably not going really well.
Yeah.
You know, and like there's smart money to still be spent on television, but it's not the only place where people can get information now, right? And it's, you know, it was Facebook for a long time. Well, Facebook's not the only place that eyeballs are at. It's the reason Facebook or Meta, whatever, bought Instagram. It's because there's a lot of eyeballs moving to Instagram, and then it's TikTok, and then, you know, and then there's LinkedIn and YouTube. And so there's all these different platforms that come up, and that's where the attention goes. Well, if that's where the attention goes, that's where the eyeballs are, and that's where you're going to be able to sell product.
Yep.
And ultimately that's what you're doing at the end of the day, is you're moving the needle. You're helping influence, buying habits from the consumers, from people that are, and the companies are paying you for that.
Yeah.
How you do that is going to be different for each person.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, finding your lane of kind of what fits your personality, what makes sense, what doesn't burn you out. That's what you need to do.
What
and,
seems fun to you.
Yeah.
Like,
and
you
be
can
creative.
do it all the time. Yeah.
I think that's a big thing. Like just throw a random company out there. I want to see if I can build it doesn't have to be a fishing company. Like
Heinz Ketchup.
Heinz Ketchup. Okay. Let's see if we can come up with an idea for Heinz Ketchup, which isn't my favorite ketchup, but hey, if they want to sponsor the podcast or something, sure. But, so you could build a plan around Heinz Ketchup. You're like, hey, I'm going to wrap my boat It's going to be a giant Heinz ketchup bottle. It's going to be backwards. So the ketchup's going to be going out the back because we're going forward. So this is like the rocket fuel that keeps me going every day. And it's going to be this Heinz ketchup thing. But you're going to be like, hey, send me a list of your, because Heinz ketchup is going to be on a completely different level. So you have to think about what's going to make the most difference for them. Okay. So we're going to look at Heinz ketchup. We're going to say, what are your top retailers? Give me a list of your, 5 top retailers. I'm going to do X amount of days at those top retailers for free, quote unquote free.
Yeah.
You're going to pay the sponsorship, and I'm going to throw these days in where I'm not going to charge you a day rate. We'll do meet and greets at those. We'll have the boat and truck fully wrapped. We're going to go to those retailers. Okay. We're also going to do a fishing trip for your employees. So you pick like employee of the year. They get to go do a fishing trip with me. We're going to film it. We're going to put it out there, and it's going to get content around it. Okay. Who are like, out of those top, retailers or clients, right? Like that's why you see, like in the oil and gas industry.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of that comes from. But like, that's how I would approach Heinz is like, figure out what makes the most sense for them. That's going to get them eyeballs. And you're like, okay, hey, let's do a fishing contest where everybody that buys a Heinz ketchup bottle, they scan this QR code, they put their email in, they sign up. Now you have their email address. They can win a fishing trip. They get this whole prize package.
Can run it. That same thing is like kind of worked this year, like with Chick-fil-A with
with Robert.
Yeah, and like I've seen that happen a couple times. Even Matt Robinson, I think he he put himself out there with like he liked Whataburger or whatever, and then next minute he got like a Whataburger thing. Like he went with like that. I like that stuff. Going back to saying and. Robert did the perfect job because he was like the Lord's chicken. I love it. And like just the way he did it as a character and like it turned into a sponsorship. I'm like, he ran that perfect. And someone like, I bet you Chick-fil-A is not sponsoring him. Someone that owns a Chick-fil-A that likes bass fishing saw it and jumped on it.
Yes. The Coleman branch.
Yeah. Like the Coleman. Yeah. And he's got a bass boat. I guarantee you.
But guess what? It starts there.
Yeah.
At the Coleman branch. Well, someone at the Coleman branch has a connection to corporate.
Yep.
And so you don't know where that stuff's going to turn into.
That's how it can climb up. Big time.
Do you, like how many times in your career has a deal come from someone you have met personally or someone that, that's close with somebody? How many times is that been part of your deal versus just
them coming to me?
Cold call out of the blue.
Yeah, like cold call ones are pretty unreal when they happen. Like they're like, because when they do, they're amazing. You're like, wow, but like it's rare. It's way more. I've had sponsorship deals where I've had co-anglers and the co-angler had an awesome day and I was good to them. They learn a bunch. They had a blast, and then their dad owned something, and then they talk to them, and then they were reaching out saying, "Hey, we really appreciate you looking after my son or whatever it is." And then next minute turns into it can be a small sponsorship deal, but it'd be something. But like it's always someone someone in your family that knows someone, and it's always someone you've met face to face, you've talked to. That no one's going to give you money that has never met you, doesn't know what you're like. And we've seen it as it's risky to even sponsor someone off their winnings, because what are they actually like as a person? Are they doing the right things in the tournament? Because your name's going to be on their back and on their boat. So as a sponsor, you gotta be real careful because we've seen it the last couple of years. You want to be a part of something. You're like, that's why lining up with the sponsor has the same morals as you. And if you're out there and you're wild, get after a wild sponsor because, you know, and I got the Mad Hueys and it like the boys were awesome, but like I didn't want to do what those boys want me to do. Like I wasn't a good fit. Matt Robinson and those boys, they would have crushed it for the Hueys, where like I actually toned it down for them, which I think they wanted in a little bit, like made it was a cool surf brand. But if I wanted to crush it for them, I would have had to been, you know, doing shoeies on my boat, but blast off. Who knows what, daily. You know, that every day that might have been in my contract.
Yeah.
So, you lining up with sponsors that are the same, have the same thoughts as you, and you know that makes for longevity. You know, and that because that's a huge thing in this sport. It's a small industry. Like Chris Brown, he's just loves this fishing industry and he loves being a part of it. And he's always followed my career before Kayla and everything. He's just liked it. And then now he's been with, and my Skeeter deal happened because of Chris Brown. It would never have happened without him. And it's like he loves what I do and he loves my career, but he likes our family and what we stand by and what we support. That's what you can tell. He's like, that's why you're being a part of Skeeter, because you're lined up with how we feel back here as a company. We want you a part of our company.
I think that's a part of it, big part of like sponsorship. And this is coming from somebody that doesn't have any sponsorships. If anybody wants a sponsor,
you had a few.
Well, but like
a few deals.
What I think like in that terms is I think it's being authentic to you. And like what you said, like you knew sponsors that probably weren't the right fit and you do the thing, but you're not going to like vary from where you are. Yeah. And I think that's important. And I see both you guys, like your integrity means more than anything. And I think that's important for sponsors, and the right sponsors will acknowledge that. And like being guys are family guys, and that means a lot to sponsors and providing value. Just for the character you are. Your fans love you guys for who you are. Win or lose, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You go to
that's
the
part of your brand, right? I mean, each angler, you're essentially building your own brand. Your brand is what you represent, and how you represent yourself. Yeah, and I think that's why, you know, full circle to where this conversation started. Of when you make the elites, the ability is higher now, I think, to come in and already have a name built for yourself.
Yeah, the Bassmaster's done a good job of like elevating the opens to the opens, but big sponsors and us and other anglers are watching the opens. So we knew those savages that came in last year. We were like, oh God. And they were personalities. They had social media, YouTube. They were thriving and good anglers. And then boom, into the elites. What happened? They crushed it. That they created what we wanted essentially, but then it wasn't that good because like they're all killers in all of these aspects. But in the end, it's 1 year, got to go 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. It's going to go down, but that's what you kind of wanted.
Yeah, that's what everybody wanted, was like to come in, but it's still not like you don't just qualify and just instantly everything's taken care of.
Yeah.
You know, because those guys, they had built all of those things. They weren't just random guys that nobody knew their name when they came in.
Oh, work.
They had built their name over time through various, you know, ways and platforms, that when they did qualify for the elites, it just gave those companies more exposure.
Yeah.
You know, it gave their personal brand more exposure. So it wasn't just them starting at square one at the elites. Because if you are doing that, if you're just coming into the elites blind, nobody really knows your name, it's going to take you a while to build that brand. And then you're going to be able to get those sponsorship dollars.
Yeah.
Because those companies want to see what you stand for over the long haul. And if it doesn't agree with their values and their policies, they will cut you.
Yeah.
Like, you will go away. And I think that's a big part of it, is just that you have to align yourself with the right people that share the same values, and that's going to help in the long run, in the big picture. And I think one thing that gets lost is as things change in the outside of the fishing industry, and as the fishing industry follows, that, things change, and that if you don't change with it, you get left behind.
Yeah.
And that's where you see a lot of animosity come from, older generations, or, versus younger. Like, you look back in early 2000s, like when bass fishing was huge. Well, there was no social media. There was, there was a lot less things that were involved, and there were a lot less places for people's eyeballs to go. So if you were a fishing company, the only place you had to spend your money that gave you good value was with major tournament trails, or like major regional tournament trails, and professional anglers.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
And like some of the main, there were some publications and things like that had good subscriber counts, but like that's where people's eyeballs were. That was the only place they could get information. If you wanted your product out there, you needed to get it in the hands of a professional angler on a tournament circuit that was going to be on TV, be in Bassmaster magazine. That was it.
Yeah.
So all of that budget from a company was funneled into one direction for the most part. Well, now those budgets are not a whole lot bigger. They're maybe a little bit bigger, but they're diversified. Now they're diversified into, Facebook marketing, Google ads, so like all your social media ads and things like that. Then it's into, guys making videos on YouTube. You can call them YouTubers, whatever, but they're driving traffic and they're selling product. You've got professional anglers that are driving traffic. You've got the tournament circuits and we're all competing for the same budget, that same dollar that's available. And so I think that's where in the professional side of things, like you can't just fish tournaments and just expect a bunch of money to come to you anymore. You have to do a bunch of different things. I think that's why I started trying to do different things and think outside the box early. One, because I was a younger generation.
Yeah.
And two, I was a kid from Idaho. I'm like, how do I separate myself? And then I just wanted to share my story. Like, I just wanted other people to be able to see it and go, man, bass fishing's kind of cool. Like, I wanted other people to think bass fishing was as cool as I thought it was.
Yeah.
Like ever since I was a kid at 8 years old, I'm like, bass fishing is so much cooler than football and basketball and soccer. Like, it is the coolest sport in the world. I want everybody else to believe it too.
Yeah.
And I think there's enough eyeballs that to me, it seems like it's a lot cooler than it was then.
Yeah, well, like look the
With all the
footage
high
and
schools
everything,
and stuff.
but and like they've got the footage that you're putting out and the edits and stuff. Like that's what we needed. It's like surf films, like and motocross and stuff like that. That's why it looked cool, is because they were putting that effort and energy into the videography and all of that and the edits of it. But what you
go ahead, finish that. I'm gonna ask Vandy a question.
Just if you're watching this from an Opens point of view, is like, if you're wondering like how to get started in it, my advice would be just start to tell your story. You have a phone, it's all in your pocket. It's actually super simple. It's not hard. You just have to start. A GoPro camera is not a lot of money, but you don't even need that. You have your phone, turn it on yourself and say, man, this year I'm fishing my very first Bassmaster Open. I'm pumped. Tell your story. Give raw emotion of like what you feel and where you're at, and people will start to follow, and we'll watch it and we'll see it and we'll be like, oh yeah, and then tell them what you want to do. Like, I'm trying to make the Opens. I fished last year, and then keep doing that, and just that's how you start. Like, it's not hard. You have it sitting in your pocket, and those videos are the ones that blow up. And then when you make it or whatever, you can go back and people see that just like,
It's so
you
cool.
know, there's so many cool stories of watching this guy. Like next minute you have people behind you like, man, he's in the final three. He's almost made it. Like, and people will invest in your story. And those are the people that are going to end up sponsoring you, supporting you, buying a shirt or your jersey or whatever it is. They're going to start to believe in you. Doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. Just tell your story. Start there, and it's not a big production. It doesn't have to be this huge thing. Just pick your phone up, film a video, tell your story and what you're doing, and that's the perfect start to like get people to start looking at you.
Yeah, I think one quick thing too is like 2 things in that: be authentic to who you are, and bring people along for the journey. Because if I saw your journey from Australia to here, and it doesn't have to, you don't have to video guy, whatnot. Just be who you are and take me with you. I'm going to be a fan of you most likely. You know what I mean? Because like, I feel for you. I feel for when you fall, and it's hard to record stuff when you fail, but like just documenting that process is going to be amazing, because when you do make it, it's going to mean so much more to those people watching also, because they're going to be rooting for you too.
Yeah, they become emotionally invested into the, you know, the more that you put out there, the more relatable you become, and the more people become invested into that.
They see you as a human. And like they see,
because we are.
Yeah.
We're humans. We just get to live out the dream that we had when we were little.
Yeah.
But like, we're still just like regular dudes that have kids and travel around
nothing
the country.
Special. Like, haven't done nothing great. We just love fishing. Like, and then we decided to keep going after it. You know? But it is the scariest thing to do for a human is to put themselves out. You know what I mean? Like that. People are scared of failure, so they're like, I'm going to sit under the radar for as long as I can before I jump, you know, or say anything. But it's like you got to kind of do that first, because we want to see you. They want to see you through the falls and then see you get back up. Oh, he got back up. He's going to go again, and that's next minute you grew in that.
100%.
Did you think? Was it 8 years ago? Did you ever think you'd just go from like filming our friends' weddings to traveling around the country, just talking about fishing podcasts and filming?
No. And it's like, I don't think like seeing the trajectory, like I kind of just followed it, I think in some ways too. It's like, I knew this is what I wanted to do with video. I love telling story.
Yeah.
But when I got into, I knew nothing of fishing before this. Like I still don't know much, but I fell in love with the people of bass fishing, all the people. And you see like the story, and like, it didn't take long after a couple derbies to be like, wow, this is cool. And I'd never seen fishing like that competitively come from Idaho. There's not as much. And I think I related to like rodeo culture sometimes too, because it's kind of has that like, hey, you got to love it to do it. Yeah. It's not like it's not a flashy thing. You're not going to like, like, it's a tough thing. And like a lot of people come in and fall out. And it's tough because it kicks your butt sometimes. And there's a lot of guys that get down on it. But I think like the story in that is an amazing thing, because there's a lot of failures, and there's a lot of guys that fail and get back up. There's a lot of guys that give it all they have and make it after years and years and years. So there's a ton of story in bass fishing, but I think like one of the things that I have a lot of pride in what we all do here is like fishing has always been cool. But I think showing it to like general population people, like, you know what I mean? Just like my friends who don't know fishing, and like the biggest compliment we can ever get is like, hey, I've never really been fishing, but your stuff is cool. Yeah. And it's like, it makes them like see fishing in a whole different light. And like, as a storyteller or video guy, like
that's an A+.
It's a huge thing. Like, cause it's like,
check, you did your job, right? Like you told the story that everyone was invested enough to watch for 25 to 50 minutes.
Yeah. But it's an easy story to tell too, because I think there's a lot of people who like, the story's there. Like bass fishing's awesome. Just show it as what it is. Yeah. And like, there's the struggles of it. You went through failures, and we've documented those, and it is what it is. And like, you guys get back up and you'll succeed again. And it's people relate to that. And I think just documenting it's really cool. But I think showing fishing for what it is and people who don't fish think it's cool is a huge compliment because it is.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I love that aspect of wanting to make fishing cooler for more people.
Yeah. I think like we've had that conversation. I think even one of the first podcasts we did, we talked about the times we were like, why do we keep doing this?
Yeah.
You know, like every once in a while we'll have a moment and you're like, you put in all this work and Vandy's pretty expensive.
Now I am.
Feral cats are expensive apparently. That it doesn't like the cost doesn't matter to me. It's like I feel like I get to just get to pay and have one of my best friends travel around. So for me, it's all worth it. But there's times where like you put in all this money, all this effort and time, and you're out there, 4 days in a row in the wind and rain and everything, and you like build this edit and you put it out there, and YouTube's like, we're only gonna let 20,000 people watch this.
Yeah.
You're like, gosh, why are we doing this? I'm like, you're thankful for the 20,000, and you're like, is it really worth the money and the effort to continue doing it? And then you have one person come up and they're like, man, I was struggling, and I watched one of your videos, and like then I started binge watching them, and I watched all your videos, and they're like, I got back into bass fishing and I'm hyped up. Or you get one guy that's like, he walks up to you at the classic and he's like, hey, I want to give you this challenge coin. You got me through my tours in Afghanistan, whatever. And you're like, that's why we do it.
Yeah.
Like that's, because it's so weird. Like there were a couple years that we had the video series sponsored and stuff, but really for the most part, it's just come out of my pocket because it's something that I want to do. And I think it shows it. And in a roundabout way, it adds value to the brand and adds value to the sponsors.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I was like, I have to remind myself that there's more to it than that.
It's helping people.
Yeah, and you get those little reminders. And so I think the point of that is that don't always make every decision just based on pure financial decisions, right? Because I've had moments in my career where I've like went a direction where I'm like, oh, I think I can make more money doing this. And then I was like, a couple years down the road, you're like,
we should didn't do
that probably wasn't the right call.
Yeah.
Like it was awesome. It was great. You do it. And the people were there. Maybe the product wasn't quite there, or, just like something happens, or, the company gets bought out or goes a different direction. Like there's a million things that can happen. But like one thing that's always held true is there's a gut feeling, even, there's like the gut feeling on the water, like, oh, I should probably go do this. To me, that is also in the sponsorship side, the business
100%.
side of it, where you're like, like you're talking to somebody and you're like, everything looks perfect on paper.
Yeah.
But there's something in your gut that's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not right. And you can't always put a finger on it, like, this is what's not right. Because everything looks great. But I've walked away from big deals before because I'm like, it just doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
But
you got to learn the hard way sometimes.
But every time I've done that, it works out in the long run.
Yeah, for the good. But every time you haven't trusted it, I'm sure, and I've done it, a couple times, and I'm like, why did I do that? I knew it was not the right thing.
But it's
you got to learn.
It's such a double-edged sword.
Yeah,
right. Because
you need the money to survive. You're not going to survive without any money.
Exactly. So that's why I say like you want the ultimate goal is to get to a point where you can, pick and choose where you want to be, work with the companies, the people you want to work with. And you can start that early on if you can financially stomach it. But the ultimate goal is to get to the point where you can have all of your bills paid for before you make a cast.
Yeah.
If you can get to there, then every time you cut a check, it's a bonus.
Yeah.
You know, it's not you're getting all $5,500 of that if you finish 50th. You don't want to finish 50th and be like, well, I got 500 of that. You know, if you can get to the point, that should be everyone's initial goal, right? Is like, look, get to the point where I can pay all my bills, you know, put food on the table for my family before I make a cast. And then that, if you can just get to that point, that's going to relieve a lot of mental stress.
Yeah. It's tough to compete when that's what happened to me. Like in 15, there's anglers that were making millions of dollars, like then like crushing it. And then like, that's why bass fishermen can never agree. It's like, there's this quarter of the field that are killing it in the tournament industry and life. And you're looking at them like, holy cow. Like one time when I wasn't doing any good in 16, we were going broke. We went to Iconelli's like fundraiser thing, and it was in the middle of these like paddocks, like cornfields.
Yeah.
And I looked at Kayla and I said, if Iconelli's like living in like a trailer, I'm like, I might have to quit bass fishing. Like I was like, we're in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, if he's not doing good, like it's not possible to do good. Like we're driving, because we were like, had this old camper and we were sleeping in the back. Like it wasn't good. And come around and like Ike had 2 Tundras, 2 boats, his garage, like back to back. He's pulling the plug down, plugging in. He's like winding his like real line holders straight off his boat. And I'm just like I'm not that I'm doing it for the money, but I'm like, it just gave me a vision. I'm like, oh, this is what I want. And I'm getting like, I got some of that now, like with my shot that, you know, it gave me the boost. So like you need to, like, there's a lot of doom and gloom out there when we listen to podcasts of bass fishing stuff. No, there's guys making a lot of money in both industries, and they're crushing it, and they have beautiful homes, they have their dream shops. They get to hunt fish. This is the unbelievable living to make. It's incredible, and at the top, it's unreal. But through that bottom and through that middle, you're gonna have to fight with everything that you've got, because it's not gonna be easy to get to there. That's I like people to know, like, it's cool, it's worth fighting for, but you're gonna have to.
That's why I love bass fishing. You have to earn it.
You have to earn it.
Whether it's on the scales or it's off the scales, you have to earn it. And that's what I've always told people. I believe that in professional fishing, value is on a scale. You've got the most valuable guy and you've got the least valuable guy. And there's a scale. There's like a percentage, or however you want to break it down. I'm like, I have always wanted to get, you know, like professional angling to the point where the least valuable guy is worth $100,000 a year.
Yeah, that's right.
If you can get the least valuable guy worth $100,000 a year, everybody above that's just going to make that much more money.
Yeah.
You know, if there's enough companies that look and say, that guy's worth $100,000.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not from one company, but in total, he can round up $100,000.
Yeah.
The dudes at the top are, you know, crushing it. Guys in the middle are crushing it. You know, like everybody's doing good. But when the least valuable guys, 10 or 15,000, you know, that's the hard part. So I'm always looking at ways like, hey, how do we help the guys at the bottom? Like, how do we make this whole sport look so valuable that the least valuable guy is worth $100,000? Because there's always going to be different guys that are willing to put in more work than other guys. And the guys that put in more work are just going to get rewarded more for it. And so I've always felt like, just look at the least valuable guy and
let's elevate him to the next.
Elevate him, because then like companies are going to look and be like, oh, well, yeah, like he's worth that.
Yeah.
And not just, you know, not a misconceived value of that, but like he's actually worth
he's moving the needle.
He's moving the needle.
Yep.
So like, that's where I want the industry to get.
I think that's happening because of podcasts and you and a certain group of us. You have elevated everything. If you look now, the bottom of the Elite series have good social medias. They're on YouTube. They're posting. They have good sponsors. Like, it is happening. Yeah. You've seen, like, since I was in 15, like, there's guys that, you'll never hear of again that like was kind of just in and gone. And it really, it hurt a lot of people because they just came in literally like with no idea, you know, they were just of fishing all over the country, plus sponsorships, plus because they had that misconception of it was all going to come. I would say you've definitely, and a group of people have elevated everyone. The bottom of the elites is really switched on to a lot of stuff now. But if I was going to say anything too, is like there's a million ways to skin a cat, what they call, like you figure out your way to make some money. Like you can get a little bit lazy when you get good sponsorships and you're crushing it and you're catching them and you're like, oh, life's good. It's not always going to be like that. And I've found my best like solutions when I'm like, I've got to figure out how to find $5,000 to pay the next entry fee. And I'm like, what do people want to do? And I've taken trips and got people to pay whatever you can do. Just there's a million things. You just got to spin the wheels, talk to your family. What do you think? And there's so many things online and teaching and whatever it is. It's not this one set. I'm going to go down this line and these sponsors are going to come in. Like just come in from an angle where people are going to be like, whoa, like I didn't see that. These ideas are like sitting there to make money in fishing, and you just got to think of it, and you can be that guy. And if you can, the ultimate dream in bass fishing is to be able to compete and not have money worries. That's when you just can't do it. When you're like, I got to get a check, and the other guy's thinking, I'm going to win. You're not going to beat him. Yeah. He's out there thinking, how am I going to win? And you're like thinking about trying to get a check. You're just not going to beat him. And that's what happens to most people coming in. They're thinking about that next cast, how they're going to pay the next bill. And so whatever you can do to like earn some money and then be able to compete. And some guys like on the MPFL and that, they're just big businessmen that own businesses. They've done it. They've done their money making. They're going to fish professionally for fun. That's fine too. That's awesome too. There's guys that just want to go and fish the opens that love competing. They've made their money. And
guess what? They earned it.
They earned it and put their bit. Yeah. I want to get to a stage where I can put Fear My Heart as one of the bigger sponsors on my boat. You know, that would be insane.
Yeah, I want that on my boat too.
Yeah.
I want you to get to the point where you put Fear My Heart on the side of my boat too.
That would be unbelievable.
Sounds like a great deal.
You gotta have those visions. And
so far, all I've got is this free Yeti cup with Fear My Heart on it.
I got to send you the bill for that. Actually,
invoice is actually in my inbox.
You just reminded me. I got to.
You got another thought?
I want to ask you about your first year. You made it, and I think Yamaha. You were in the blue, like white jersey and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what was your first year like stepping in? You'd built enough to have a bit of a name because Yamaha but you had a Toyota and you just got in it.
I had to get creative. How are we on battery power and stuff?
We're great.
Okay. Yeah. Let's make sure.
Finish it off with our BP.
I had to get creative.
Yeah.
Being a guy from Idaho, nobody knew who I was. And I didn't come through the opens. I came through the Bass Nation.
Yeah.
And so I hadn't built a brand. I hadn't traveled a lot around the country. The year prior, I had started to get my name out there. I won a FLW tour event as a co-angler. I won the Western division of the TBF national championship. I made a top 10 in the All-American. I won several things like divisionals and stuff through the nation that year. And I had some top 10s in the nation championship before that. But I really didn't have my name out there. Like unless you followed it really closely, you didn't know.
Yeah.
And so I had to get creative. And I was the first guy to accept the invitation from the nation to the elites.
Okay.
And so there had been guys before that had qualified, but based on jobs, finances, family, whatever, they always turned down the elite invitation. So I was the first guy to take it. And I remember Skeeter and Yamaha came up to me the night that I'd won the championship, because the people that ran the pro staff then, they were at the national championship. And I had known them since I was about 16, because they'd be at the divisionals, right? They'd be out there handing out hats and gift bags and stuff. And I'd shake their hand. Hey, Joanne. Hey, Dave.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I won, they came up and said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to fish the elites. And they said, okay, well, how are you going to do that? I said, I don't know. I said, I'll take a business loan out. Like, I didn't care. I didn't know what the plan was, because at that point, the only plan was qualify for the elites.
Then
that was
figure it out.
Like, the whole reason for me fishing the nation since I was 16 was qualify for the elites. Like, that was the goal. And so when I did that, I had won at the national championship. Skeeter gave the champion a certificate for, I believe at that time it was a 20i with a 250 Yamaha on it. And so I got that certificate for winning the national championship. That was part of the prize pack. And they put me, they came to me and said, hey, we'll help you out. We'll put you on a memo deal. So we'll give you a discounted boat, and you don't have to pay that for 12 months.
Yeah.
You can sell that certificate.
Nice.
And you can use that money to help pay for your first year on the elites.
Wait.
So that's how I got a big boost from the nation and from Skeeter and Yamaha, right? Is like, they didn't pay me anything.
Yeah.
They had given that certificate to no matter who won that nation championship got that certificate, but it allowed me, them giving me an actual team deal allowed me to sell that certificate, because the boat I had,
you were going to use that boat.
I was going to have to order that boat to run it on the elites.
Yep.
So it allowed me to sell that certificate. And so that helped a lot. And then I came up with this idea, since I was the first guy to go from nation to elites. I said, hey, why don't I run a Bass Nation boat wrap? And I'll promote the entire nation and promote, then it was the Bass Federation, and each state has their own chapter, their own, financial parts to it. Each state can, if they give me $500, that'll help.
Yep.
And so we put that out there. I got with John Stewart. He helped me, get it out there to all the state presidents, and not everybody ponied up, but some states like Maine sent a bunch of money. They sent, I think, like $1,000.
Yeah.
They're like one of the smallest chapters in the entire country. Wow. But I think there was like 20 states, I think, that stepped up.
Wow.
And provided some sort of financial thing, say like, hey, this is our guy.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to be just Idaho.
Yeah.
I wanted
the nation.
I want to be the guy for the Bass Federation.
And there you go. That's you getting creative, coming up with a new idea, and boom, there's a sponsorship. Like,
so I think that got me like another 12 grand maybe, or something.
That's not huge.
Not huge, but it was 12.
It was huge.
When you're sleeping in the back of your truck, like I could make 12,000 go a long way.
Yeah.
Fuel prices weren't as high then. And so it was just getting creative with stuff like that. And then, you talk about relationship stuff. My first, outside of Skeeter Yamaha, my first big national deal was with Pure Fishing. It was with Abu and Berkeley. And the only reason I had that is because, and I'll make this story short, but in 2008, I'd made it to nationals. I flew from Idaho to Lake Wiley in North Carolina, and all of my stuff got stolen. Rods, reels, everything gone. Well, that tournament was in conjunction with an FLW tour event, and the pro staff manager for Berkeley and Abu at that time traveled to every professional event with an enclosed trailer full of tackle for their guys. And she was there. I'm not going to say her name because I don't know if she wants me to or not, but she is amazing. And so the tournament director got a hold of her and said, hey, I got this young kid. I was like 19 at the time or something. Didn't have $1 to my name. And said, hey, all that stuff got stolen. he puts her on the phone with me and she's like, what do you think you need for this tournament? I tell her, I don't remember how I think someone gave me a ride to her hotel room, and I walk in and she just gives me a big hug. I'm like, I've never met this lady. Gives me a big hug, hands me like a full thing of rods, full thing of reels, and a box full of tackle and line and like everything to fish the tournament. And, I think I had to go buy like a few hooks and weights and things like that at the tackle shop. And I told her, I was like, well, I'll just give it all back after the tournament before I fly home. She said, you need it more than I do. Just keep it. And so I stayed in touch with her, kept that relationship open, right? And I never got anything else after that. But I just, every once in a while, send an email, say thanks, send a picture with the rod and reel, something. When I won the national championship, she was one of the first people to call me the next week.
Yeah.
And say, okay, you ready to do a deal?
Nice.
Right. So that something bad happened, opened a door.
Yeah.
And then like 4 years later or something, or I guess like 3 years later, that door that was opened because of something bad, because I had stayed in contact.
Yep.
She already knew who I was. And so that was how I got my first deal. And it wasn't even a paid deal. It was just product.
Yeah.
It was just,
what you
just
need,
some product.
man.
I'm like, well, at least I can get started.
Yep.
And that was the first time I'd ever had anything. And before that, it was local guys, like Seth Burrell at Anglers Experience. Like, he taught me a ton about business and, it made connections for me. But those are tiny deals where you're just $500 here, $500 there, but they all add up. And so that was like my first year. I had the exact same thing you did. I thought, man, all these companies are just going to I'm going to get money from all these.
Yeah.
And that just wasn't the case.
Yeah.
And I learned real quick that I had to get creative.
Yep.
Because I had like a month, I think, before I had to make my first payment from the time I qualified in the nation to the time I had to make my first payment. And luckily I had a really good year that year.
Yeah. It was good investments on all of them, because that's what they're kind of gambling on you. In a way, and it was a good gamble because you, in a way, exploded onto the scene from that classic. Like, that's what I remembered. Like, because from watching it, all of a sudden it was like you had always been there. It wasn't. It was a little bit of like, who is this guy? But like, you had that thing that like it was, and next minute you're fishing around Van Dam and Aaron, and you were like vying for the lead of the classic, and it was like boom, and their gamble on you and investment just paid off tenfold.
Yeah.
Like, we did something here.
Yeah, there was a lot of things like that I just I didn't think would have the impact that they did. Like, I was just trying to win the classic.
Blew the whistle at
blowing the whistle, Brian Kirchhoff's whistle. That I didn't know that would have an impact on people that it did. That was just another way for me to kind of give back to the nation. Because of the Bass Federation, it gave me the platform, the opportunity to stand on that stage.
Yeah.
I knew that I was not on the classic stage. I was not on the elites. I'm not sitting at this table doing this podcast if it's not for that platform. And he was the only guy to win the Bassmaster Classic. So he was the guy, and that was kind of my way to honor him and say thank you.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that it would have an impact on people like it did. And I felt like when nobody really knew who I was outside of like those people that I had named, but they only knew me because they had met me face to face over the course of, 4 or 5 years. And I had been in, fairly consistent contact with them over the years. And so I wasn't just a random nation guy to them that won. And then really after my first year on the elites, when I had qualified through points for my second classic, then that was like another checkbox I felt like for those sponsorships, where it was like, okay, he didn't just like get lucky at the classic, didn't get lucky at the nation championship. And then when I won at Bull Shoals, that's when I felt like the doors really opened up.
And
Because then it was like, okay, he's made a top 5 in the Classic. He's requalified for the Classic, and he's won a blue trophy.
Yeah.
And
Now
that
let's
was
get going.
Yeah, that was like when phone calls
Started coming in.
Yeah, they just started becoming more serious.
Yeah.
I mean, and what's crazy is like Mega Bass was one of the people that called me after that first Classic, 2011. Like, I have an email from August of 2011 after the first year on the Elites. And every year I was like, no, it's not the right fit. It's not the right fit. It wasn't until, a couple of years ago now that I was like, okay.
Yeah,
Now
that's
it's the
how
right
long
time.
that's how long it took.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But every year they'd reach out and say, hey, just checking in.
Yeah.
And then finally I was like, okay.
Got to have that
this is-
patience for it to be something good too, have
Yeah.
the patience to wait that long for something
Yeah. And
good.
like at different stages of your career, different things make sense. And businesses and people can be in different positions at different times. And, when those mesh up and those paths cross, it can be really awesome. And that's kind of what I'm experiencing now. And so I think, it's like, you never know what's around that next door, but you have to be willing to walk through it and do it authentically. We've said that several times, but also a little bit differently. Like, you have to stand out in some form or fashion. And if that's winning, like when you do have that success, you have to know what to do with it, because it's too hard to win.
Yeah.
It's too hard to win all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
You can be consistent, but to win all the time and move the needle that way, there's a lot of other parts to it, and that you can make a good career and a good living just doing it based on catching them.
Yeah.
But you're going to limit yourself if you don't have all the other pieces. That's where you can really open doors, especially on the non-endemic side. Is, a non-endemic company isn't going to look at him like, oh man, this guy wins a lot of tournaments.
Yeah.
We want to sponsor him.
He doesn't.
They're going to want a lot more than that. And so I think that's a big part of it, is to be able to have all those other pieces of the pie to kind of build the full package that a company is looking for. And as you mature as an angler, as your career matures, all of those things are going to kind of build, and they're going to change, right? As your career grows, your value is going to start to grow. It's no different than like any supply demand chain. Like, as your demand gets higher between sponsorships, then your time supply becomes lower, and so your value then goes up.
Yep.
And those are always hard conversations to have. But I've learned, like, as you're growing through that, you have to do things that you're comfortable with, or don't do a deal that you feel like is not worth your time. Because early on, you have a lot more time.
Yeah.
When you get to our age and you have multiple kids and multiple sponsor obligations and stuff, I've really learned that you're just selling your time. Now, how you navigate that time and where that time is spent is up to you. But that's all we are all doing. We're all selling our time.
Yeah. It's crazy. Eh?
All right. I mean, that is what you're selling. You're selling your time, whether it is your time
working boat shows,
boat shows, on the water competing, building content, editing, whatever it is. You're selling your time. And because I appreciate our time and we have to practice in the morning.
Yeah.
as Kyle's running around trying to get new batteries and cameras and stuff. But we're
going to compete. Practice starts in the morning for Hartwell. So
yeah. So
knocked a couple good ones out.
Do you have any last, since you got like new batteries and all the cameras, do you have any
impressive.
last?
That was honestly one of my most impressive little feats of Carl's ran out right as he stopped talking and switched the battery. That was efficient. No, I don't have a ton of things to say.
You have no knowledge to add to this.
No, I think going back to what you guys are saying, like as a opens angler, anyone trying to make the elites, trying to fish professionally, the biggest thing I got out of this is how you can provide value and have a bit of a plan financially and backing. And then I think the most important thing, and I think you guys are good at it, is establish relationships and just talk to people. That is a huge, huge thing in this in industry, where you can talk to people and make that relationship. And it's not to get anything back. It's to give a lot of times. Like I hear you checking with a lot of people that you know, and you just further that with them. And it's not to receive anything. It's because you truly care. And it's not about necessarily the business all the time. It's about the people. And it's like, hey, how's the kids?
Yeah.
Not what are you trying to sell this week?
Yeah.
It's like, it's being friends with the people that you work with is the best thing you can do.
100%.
Because they believe in you. They know who you are. And it just establishes this environment that you're around that you want to be in, rather than like when you go to work and you're like, gosh, I hate where I work. Most of the time when you do that, you don't like the people you're working with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing.
One of my favorite things to do is, I guess, writing you a check. But it's like, it does not bother me the least amount, because it's like, you get to make a living and I get to make a living, and we have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah.
Like we've laughed so hard so many times, we've cried, like whether it's, with Tiff or in the truck or, there's just like so many funny memories where I'm like, that's all money well spent for me. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking about it before I started talking about my first year. But as we were talking today, it goes back full circle all the way back to the last podcast when you ended us with that wonderful piece of knowledge to listen. Right. When you are writing the sponsor portfolios that you were talking about, to put that out there, or you're negotiating a deal or any of this, or you're just, having a conversation with a sponsor, listen.
Yeah.
Do not go to them and say, what can you give me?
Yeah.
What can you do for me? Because you're not going to get it.
No. This is what I can do for you. It's a much better question.
Yeah. Like, how can I help your business grow?
Yeah. There you go.
Because each company's not going to be the same.
No.
They're not cookie cutters.
Yep.
They can be two soft plastic companies, but they may be in different parts, different stages of their business. They may have different marketing budgets. Where they spend their money might be differently, how they spend their money. And so they may value different things more, right? Videos and social might be more important. Someone just may want a really big logo.
Yeah.
So talk to those companies, listen to them of like what provides the most value for them, and build a plan that is going to help them grow, which is ultimately going to help you grow as well. And so it's that listening part, right? And provide value. Listen to how you can provide value for those companies, whether they're major non-endemics, whether they're your local landscaping company or your local Toyota dealership or whatever it may be. It could be your best friend's dad's construction company, or it could be the friggin' dog grooming place down the street. Like, it doesn't matter.
No.
We're walking, talking billboards.
Yep.
And so if you can come up with a creative plan to provide value for those people, that's going to help move the needle on their business, perfect.
Ask them, put it to them.
Yeah.
Hand them out there. They say no, go to the next one. This is a losing sport. You get used to it. Do as many as you can, like Gary Vee says. Just put it out there. Put it out there. Someone's going to jump on it. Someone's going to be a bass fisherman. Someone's going to not know bass fishing and say, "Oh, I like what you're doing.
Yeah,
I'll give you a go."
I think one of the most important lessons you can learn in life in general is be able to fail and fail often. And I think the people that are okay with that, and it's one of those things, it's a skill, it's a muscle, you grow it. Like as many times as you fail, you understand, oh, I can get back up. Yeah. Oh, I can do this and come back from where I came back to. And that's just like, that just as a human being, that gives you a strength. That's a skill you're building. And I think if you're able to fail or take the risk, you're going to have way more opportunity in life than you will if you're going to shrink if you're afraid of failure.
Yeah. And that is in all of us. Yeah. Because when you're a little kid, when you're learning how to walk, you trip, you fall on your face.
Yeah.
Like no little kid just lays there and just was like, walking's not for me.
Yeah.
Like they all get up and they're like, some of them cry a little more than others, but like, okay, here, let me take a few more steps. And I think it's, even though that seems so silly to compare it to, it's a very similar thing, right? It's like, yeah, you get tripped up, you fall on your face, you just get back up, and eventually you're going to learn how to walk in stride, and then you're going to learn how to run, and you're going to learn how to jump. And like, as you do that, then it becomes second nature. Then you can walk and chew gum at the same time. And then you can run backwards. Like,
it takes some guts to be a tournament angler. Like, think about, there's so many people out there that aren't willing to put their name on the line, because when you jump in a tournament, there's no like, could have, would have, should have, or here's the photo or the Instagram pic. It's like, you come dead last. Like last time I saw you were smashing them on Instagram, and now you can't catch them. Well, you're going to have to deal with that, and you're going to have to come back. And because everyone I know wants to be a tournament fisherman. No one has got the guts to be like, I'm going to put my money on the line because I think I can beat these guys. So I have all the respect in the world for anyone that says, I'm going to jump in and have a go. I'm going to put my name out there, and if I come dead last, like, you're far beyond 99% of people just by jumping in one and putting your name on the line and having an actual go, because most people are too scared to do that. They don't want to tarnish their perfect name that they have on social media, because you can create the narrative there. That's what everyone wants to do, is just touch around. Tournaments is the pinnacle, because it's you saying, I'm going to put it out there. It's you getting in the ring and saying, we're going to fight, and let's see who's best. I've been talking a big game, but now I'm actually going to do it. And so just you standing up and having a go is a huge accomplishment. For all the respect, never listen to anyone unless they have fished a tournament. There's all the people that have ever criticized me or said anything about my ability or fishing or how I fish, it's never come from a tournament angler. It's always come from someone looking from the sideline.
At least not a successful one.
Yeah, no. Yeah, exactly. Like, but yeah, some that aren't. But like, when I was in the Elites, no Elite Series guys was like saying something to me because I wasn't doing any good. They were like, dude, it's tough out here. They were the winning, but they're like, good job of just like, you're in it, dude. You're in the Elites. Like, that's a massive accomplishment. So
it's the man in arena.
Yeah, it's the man in the arena.
Do you have you may not have an answer. That's fine, because I don't know if I could think of one, but I'm just curious. Do you have a non-endemic that would just be like your ultimate sponsor? Like, if you could just have any company, you're like,
Yeah. I have had I always dreamed of like the Red Bulls and stuff of like, I used to think like that would be, just one of those ones that was big in the sports. It was like that energy drink style. Trying to think.
Yeah.
I always went after them. I was one that like I got on it and on it. Like I got a few, like I got on it and I got Skosh, and like Skosh is massive, And so I was always sort of, as much as I wanted to be sponsored by Shimano and the biggest fishing brands, I always knew like it'd be so cool to see one of these like massive brands that sponsor the motocross and all of these big, UFC and stuff to get behind it. So I'm always looking, but it wouldn't be that anymore. It'd be something different. I don't know, some health food or something.
I know that's how I am too.
A cold plunging or a sauna or something. I don't know. Yeah, one of those. I want our sport beats our bodies up worse than most sports. Everyone is beat to shreds. Guys can hardly walk, cast, lift, move their necks. We are like, we look like bull riders out there, and people are like, you just fish. So it's hard to get those like sporting ones because it's just looked at you're just fishing, and it's like, no, we need to like look after our bodies like a professional athlete does, but we don't. And so like guys have shorter careers because they can't cast anymore. Their necks are wrecked, their backs, their knees, they're beat up. So like we are the perfect sport for
longevity.
Getting those longevity things in, and saunas and cold plunges and all sorts of stuff for your body, and supplements and electrolytes and sunscreens that aren't full of poisons. There's like, because that's stuff that we use every single day. And I'm like, again, this is thinking outside the box. Like there's a million sunscreen companies. We should be sponsored by some of these big ones that have better ingredients in them, or, there's a million. But
do you have one?
Sony.
Sony.
Yeah.
I was just that. I think it's like where you think you'd like make it to the top. I don't think it's like, it's nothing about necessarily, it's more of like you've made it to this place.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, I've seen people that I admired that were there, and I'm like, that would be it. But I don't know if it's necessarily the company, and that's not something I'd want to like pitch with.
do you think if they sponsored you and like, like, hey, Kyle, we love your work. You make fishing look really cool. We're going to give you as many cameras as you want for free. We're going to pay you a yearly salary, keep shooting on our stuff, promote it a little bit. Do you think that you'd be satisfied?
No, it's not, and you guys attest to it. It's not the thing.
I know.
It's not.
I already
the
knew
thing
your
you're
answer.
going after too. I think the thing that would be to me is like, I appreciate the cameras, and I think they're the best personally for what I do. But I think it's like more than just like, it's more than that. It's like for you guys want to go fishing. I want to tell a story.
Yeah.
And like you guys want to catch fish. I love telling a story.
Yep.
Yep.
I agree. Well, I think that's a good place to end it. It's getting dark. I don't even know what time it is now, but
we said 1 hour and we're at
we're almost 2
1:40.
hours. So, I hope that there was some knowledge in the last hour and 45 minutes or so that, if you're an inspiring angler or something, that maybe you got some knowledge out of this, something that can drive you, or that you can take into your own program and try to build that up. But man, I know I learned some stuff, which is super cool. I'm excited to get out on Hartwell tomorrow.
Fun week.
Yeah, it's kind of
weather's finally good.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little rainy,
but we'll take that.
Yeah.
80, then
It's warmish.
cold and wind.
Yeah.
60-mile-an-hour winds.
I feel like the fishing gods have finally blessed us. It's gonna be a good one. Appreciate everyone listening. If you came here from part 1, thanks for sticking around for part 2. And if this is the first one you've ever listened to, go back and listen to some of the other ones. So what we're talking about makes a little more sense. But I don't know if we're gonna be able to do any more in this house this week or not.
Yeah.
Maybe on
like
the
to get
weekend.
We could try, but we'll see what.
Like
Hit
to
us
get a
if
few
this-
more guys. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see if fishing's real simple and we get all our tackle done early Wednesday, or maybe Thursday night. I don't know. Hour ones aren't bad, but man, it's hard to do them during a tournament week.
Yeah.
We all have these really big aspirations that we're going to do it. And then you're like,
5
barely get
podcasts
the
on
kids
this
to
trip,
sleep.
and we've got 2 done.
Not bad.
No.
All right. I appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Quick second.
You can't do that. I already ended it.
Well, we can do it after. You can do it again. Everybody, if you can, we'd really appreciate if you guys subscribe to both the BMP Fishing channel and the Fear My Heart YouTube channel. Helps a lot. These guys pour out a ton of knowledge, and out of their own will, and they just want to share. And I think that's a really cool thing. So go.
You can just follow him up on YouTube. It's just Carl Jocumsen.
Carl Jocumsen.
But yeah, follow Fear My Heart too.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys.
I think Kyle's just trying to make sure he still keeps getting paid.
Hey, we try to. I would really like us to like somehow make it to 100,000. Like that would be huge. That would that would be a huge thing.
You got to do 5 podcasts.
That's just a good milestone. Like 100,000.
Like to know you did that is pretty cool.
Get the cool little YouTube play button.
Yeah, I just want to touch it.
Well, there you go. There's our next goal. 100 grand, 100,000 subs.
We're gonna need approximately 30,000 of you to actually do this.
Yeah. There's a lot of you that watch and listen that aren't actually subscribed, so I don't know if that matters or not. But yeah, hey, share it, like it, comment. Help us get to 100,000. Bring Carl along too. All right.
Thanks, boys.
We'll catch you on the next one again.